of yours, Magna here, and I'm here to announce the end of, the temporary end of creating the Floral Monastery archetype. Because I pretty much have everything the way I want it, except for the art. So until then, I'll probably just be doing other things. Don't know exactly for sure. But it's going to take some time to get the artwork done. I'm a little ditzy. But I just plan on drawing some stuff on paper, scanning it to the computer, refining it a little bit there, blowing it up, and then printing it out and coloring it with colored pencils. And then I'll make a video sometime in the future about putting all those together. So consider this the end of, season alpha of the archetype. Because this is pretty much what it is with just my skills alone. And I'm pretty amateur level. I'm very old school too, and it's been a while. And I've almost never played any competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm not very good at playing anything competitively anyway. Because I'm afraid of interacting with others. But let's just go through the effects of all 19 cards. 11 monsters, 3 traps, and 5 spell cards? So, first up, alphabetically, we have Ascension of the Floral Monastery. You can target a level 1, 2, 3, or 4 Earth monster on your field and place it at the bottom of the deck. Special summon a light monster from the deck that is 1, 2, or 3 levels higher than the targeted Earth monster. All the monsters in this archetype are Earth and Light type. Type attributed. They're all Light and Earth attributes. But this card can pretty much work with any card from any series. At first, I didn't have the attribute names on there, so I thought it was a little overpowered being that way, so I just added the attributes. Next up, we have Barrier of the Floral Monastery. Dark monsters cannot attack while this card is face up on the field. You may skip your battle phase to gain 1,000 life points. If Father of the Floral Monastery is on the field, you may pay 2,000 life points to negate effects from your opponent's cards for 1 turn on any one card on either player's field. I'm thinking about adding Head Priest to this last effect as well, because technically Head Priest outranks Father of the Floral Monastery. Lore-wise, Father of the Floral Monastery is the legal guardian of the children who are part of the orphanage at the monastery. He's kind of like a head priest, but at the same time, the head priest is the head of all the priests. So they're only like a half step apart from each other when it concerns power-wise and negotiations. Because, of course, since they have such a big orphanage, but roughly 100 kids at a time or more, roughly 100 kids at any given time, taking care of the kids is a big deal. Which is one of the reasons why they kind of have have it split up in 2 positions rather than having the head priest being like the legal guardian and stuff like that. It's just easier if you got more people focused on the kids, but at the same time you want to give the kids a really strong father figure. But at the same time, you don't want that father figure to be so busy that he doesn't have time for the kids. So just giving the job over to someone else who's almost worthy enough of being the head priest kind of solves all the problem. Kind of solves the issue. It also creates a complicated dynamic, but hey, they're all priests. They're all supposed to get along, be like nice to each other and stuff like that. It's just Father of the Floral Monastery. He's one of my favorite characters in the series, in the story. So we got Catacombs. Catacombs extends underneath the entirety of the Floral Monastery and provides a way in and out in case of siege, which is something that used to happen a long time ago. But I don't have a story about that, because that never came to mind. So Dark and Earth monsters gain 500 attack and defense. Floral Monastery monsters with attack under 2000 cannot be targeted for battle or by effects from monsters with an attack of 2000 or more. Now, usually the field card supports light and earth monsters and downplays the dark and fire monsters. In this case, we get to shake it up a little bit. But, this is a trap card, and likely you're using it when you don't have the field card on the field for the sake of protecting your slightly smaller monsters from getting beat on. But next we have Child of Floral Monastery, who's the most awkward card in this archetype for being a kid that can't really do much on its own. Its swarm effects means either other monsters have to be on the field for it to special summon itself, or it's just going to get knocked out, thrown in the graveyard, and then it'll be like, hey, have some tokens. Lavender token. It's kind of funny that I decided to name it a lavender token, because lavender is like a flower people use to help themselves, to provoke sleep. It's not a flower that represents death. I don't know what that flower is, but lavender usually represents sleep. So, in a weird way, the Child of the Floral Monastery is, I'm not going to the graveyard because I died, I'm just sleeping. Which is a weird way that kids cope with death. And now I'm thinking about a horror game. Let's move on. Goodness. I can easily imagine someone turning this into a horror game. Into a horror archetype. See, Congregation in the Floral Monastery. I think the original name of this was Discipleship. I can't quite remember. So once per turn, if a Child of the Floral Monastery is on the field, special summon a Floral Monastery monster from your hand. Just in case you need to give the kids some backup, someone to hide behind. Because you really shouldn't send kids into battle. That's just mean. Creature of the Catacombs. Also part of the lore. One day someone asked them, hey, could you look after a basilisk for us? It's a giant legless lizard. And they're like, at first they were gonna say no, but the father of the Floral Monastery is like, hey, he's my uncle, I trust him, let's just do what he asks, it'll be fine. He's pretty easygoing. And the Crypt Keeper is like, okay, now I've got this giant lizard to take care of. But they go along. So if a Floral Monastery monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon this card as a level 7 Earth Reptile with 2400 attack and 2000 defense. Oh yay, he's an Archetype, which means he can actually get an attack boost from that trap card we saw earlier. And he gets 300 attack for every Floral Monastery monster in the graveyard. And if a Lavender token is on your opponent's side of the field, this monster can attack directly. Nice. Crypt Keeper, the Floral Monastery. Oh my goodness, I wish I could minimize this a little bit. Or shorten some of the words here so that the font largens up a little bit. This is why these art boxes need to be a little smaller. If you really care about your artwork, just sell posters of the art. Don't force people to look at tiny boxes of art and then squeeze their eyes to oblivion to read this tiny font. It's so stupid. Okay, during the damage step, if the current level of any zombie, fiend, or spellcaster that your opponent controls, not necessarily the attacking monster, is higher than this, and it doesn't matter how many cards they have on the field that is of that type, and they're all, any one of them is higher in level than this one's current level, then your opponent also takes battle damage. It doesn't matter if those cards and this card are not involved in the battle. That's just just trying to be sneaky here. The Crypt Keeper is actually one of my favorite characters in the series. So, quick effect. Discard a monster card from your hand and target a monster on the field and destroy it. When this monster is sent to the graveyard by battle or effect, you can activate a trap card from your hand. And trap ability. Which potentially means you can get it right back out of the graveyard. I'm not sure. Depends on the trap card that you wish to use. So, Disciple of the Floral Monastery. He's kind of in between the groomsman and the priest when it concerns rank. Like, story-wise. So, if your opponent uses an effect to negate one of your effects, then you may discard this card from your hand to negate that negation. Kind of anti-hand trap. While this card is on the field, even when flipped face down by an effect, level 3 or lower monsters that this card's owner controls cannot be targeted for battle. I might need to lower his stats a little bit. It looks a little funky for a level 3 monster. I'm always kind of bad with the stat lines. So, Father of the Floral Monastery, I guess he's the second most powerful card. I'm not sure. Well, rank-wise, he's the second strongest monster. Lore-wise, he's the second strongest monster. So, while this card's face up on the field, zombies, fiends, and spellcasters cannot attack nor activate effects. Once per turn during your standby phase, you may choose a target on the field and then banish it. Send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard to resolve this effect. Once per turn, you can discard 2 monster cards from your hand to special summon your Mother of the Floral Monastery from your hand or deck. Trying to create synergy between father and mother. We'll get there in a few. Groomsmen of the Floral Monastery. These guys are kind of like, I don't know, guardsmen. So I just decided to make pendulum monsters because I felt like we needed something. But I have almost no experience with pendulum monsters. And of course, this guy's spell effect is a little conflicting because they don't work together. You can't prop the effects on the same monster on the same situation. It's really awkward. So, battle damage involving monsters that were pendulum summoned by this card's owner is halved. If the battle damage received by this card's owner involving Floral Monastery monsters equal to or higher than half of the opposing monster's attack, then the controller of the attacking monster loses life points equal to half of that battle damage. I've got to find a way to shorten that. It's too much to chew on. I'm practically eating my tongue to speak all that. Monster effect. This card is also treated as a warrior while in the deck and on the field, not in your hand or in the graveyard. So no warrior returning alive here. I know that would have made him a little stronger or more favorable, but I didn't want to go there. I'm just not ready for that nonsense yet. Plus, I think warrior returning alive tends to get on the limited list on and off, so I don't really want people feeling like they're only option. So I don't know how I feel about that. Once per turn, tribute 1,000 life points to increase this monster's attack or defense by 1,000. If this card is destroyed by battle, special summon a midwife of the floral monster from the Floral Monastery. You can make the word monster out of monastery from the deck and increase its attack by half of this card's current attack. Which is pretty much a stalling effect there too, because midwife of the Floral Monastery is not a very strong monster. So, Groundskeeper. And lore-wise, the Groundskeeper is married to the Crypt Keeper. They just have a special thing going on. This monster can be special summoned from the hand when an earth monster exists on either side of the field. While this card is face up on the field and an effect is activated by a beast warrior, or winged beast monster, the owner of this card can discard a card from their hand to the graveyard to negate that effect. Groundskeeper. Next up is Head Priest, our boss monster. 3 Floral Monastery monsters, please. And then you can detach a material to special summon a Floral Monastery monster from your hand or deck. Monsters special summoned this way can attack directly. If a Floral Monastery monster other than this card would be destroyed by battle or effect, negate the destruction and return this card and its attached materials to the deck. It's kind of like recycling. Next up, we have Light of the Floral Monastery. I think this card used to have a different name. Can't remember what it was. If a Floral Monastery monster is on the field, all monsters controlled by this card's controller become light monsters. I know for a lot of the other cards I mentioned owner, but this one I didn't really care. But you know what? I'll care. I will care. Stop shooting myself in the foot. I will care. Controlled by this card's owner become light monsters. Yay! That way you don't have to worry about the dark attribute monsters that you do like getting nerfed by this archetype. So light. Midwife. She's our only normal monster with any lore text on her. Not a nun or a priest, just a woman who is dedicated to the wholesomeness of the monastery by doing various chores and being knowledgeable of herbal medicines. Misspelling! Let me see if I can fix that. Gotta fix them typos. She's also trained in martial arts as a precaution. The precaution of dangerous persons. That sounds so stupid, but you know, sometimes people do some pretty rotten stuff. So, spell effect. If a card successfully negates the effects of a Floral Monastery monster, the controller of that card takes 800 life point damage. If a Floral Monastery card would be destroyed by an effect, send that card to the deck instead of the graveyard. Hold on a second, please. I hope this is recording. So, now we got Midwife of the Floral Monastery. If this card successfully negates the effects of a Floral Monastery monster, if a card, sorry, not this card, please read properly, Magna. If a card successfully negates the effects of a Floral Monastery monster, the controller of that card takes 800 life point damage. If a Floral Monastery card would be destroyed by an effect, send the card to the deck instead of the graveyard. Let me change this up a little bit. To the top 10 of deck instead of the graveyard. Woohoo! And of course, this is my only known monster. It beats an eye. I was wondering if I should do like just a bunch of these in like normal mode and then have a bunch of them. Then have another version of them as spell cards. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that for the next season. So that was Midwife. Now we get Mother. Trying to get her to synergize with Father. Remember Father banished cards? Mother can return monsters from the banished zone. So what's per turn? During your standby phase, you may choose one target in either player's banished zones and then put it in its owner's graveyard. Send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard to resolve this effect. Once per turn during your end phase, return a Floral Monastery monster from the graveyard to the deck. Send this card from the field to the graveyard to negate the destruction of a Floral Monastery monster card. It was a Floral Monastery card, not monster. Pardon me, I cannot read. So yeah, you can use this to protect your spell or trap cards if you want to. Like, despite lore-wise, she's 3rd ranking, I don't think of Mother too much. Because in the story, she's actually a pretty old woman, and she ends up dying midway, like, early on in the story. It's kind of sad. Like, Father really loved Mother, and then Mother died. The Father could do nothing. And he was very sad. So, last effect, if this card has been in the graveyard for 3 turns, return it to the deck. So yeah, she's gonna get herself out of the graveyard. She's like, I ain't staying in the graveyard, I'm getting back in the deck. If Father needs me again, I will be there for him. Okay, Mother. I will be there for all my little cards. So that was Mother. Next we got is None. While this card is on the field, even with flip face down by an effect, level 3 or lower monsters that this card's owner controls cannot be targeted by effects from monsters that your opponent controls. And this is our tuner monster. I was thinking about making Father a synchro monster. We'll see in the next season. Maybe it'll actually work better that way. But I am tired of all this blackface art. No offense to the idea of blackface, but you know, just nothing. It's just a void. I'm tired of looking into the void and hoping for something to come out. It's kind of hard to look at these cards seriously and just see nothing. They're empty inside. And a priest of the Floral Monastery. You can pay 1,000 life points to search your deck for a Floral Monastery card and add it to your hand. 1,000 might be too high. We'll see later. And while this card is face up on the field, your opponent cannot attack you directly. During each end phase, gain 300 life points for every spell trap card on your opponent's side of the field. Just in case your opponent is just kind of spamming, or just in case your opponent's kind of back row heavy. I know nowadays with monsters having such extravagant effects, people don't rely on spell cards nearly as much as they used to, but you never know who you're going up against. So, Silent FEATS, our final track card. It's inspired by the mice and the bats that live in the catacombs. And once per turn, discard the bottom card from your deck and look at one of your opponent's face-down monsters and same monsters instead of cards again. Look at your opponent's face-down cards and return it face-down. We're just peeking. But there's a lot of strategic advantage to just looking at what your opponent's got on their face downs. So if the discarded card is a monster, then flip up your opponent's card and negate its effects. So no automatic destruction, because a lot of cards can proc effects on being automatically destructed or something like that. So we're just putting some dead weight on your opponent's side of the field. So now they're having to deal with their own cards being vague turned into tokens. This vaguely turns your opponent's monster cards, or spell cards and trap cards, into tokens. They just have these things sitting on the field for no good reason. They can't use their effects until this card is destroyed. And now we have the Floral Monastery field card itself. Alphabetically last, and yet supposedly one of the most important cards in the archetype. Not really, but let's just go over the effect anyway. The original attack of light and earth monsters is increased by 800, and the original attack of dark and fire monsters is decreased by 800. If a monster's attack has been increased by this effect, then this card's owner chooses the battle target of that monster, potentially turning your opponent's monsters against themselves. If a monster's attack has been decreased by this effect, it cannot activate its own effects, which is a lot of different monsters. Because, so see, I see a lot of I see a lot of dark monsters, and I see a lot of earth monsters. And I think then it's water or fire. It's kind of hard to tell who shows up more often. I don't think a lot of light monsters get love. I don't think light monsters get a lot of love, but I'm not sure. I'm just an amateur, just watching from afar. No, I'm feeling like I'm missing an attribute, but I think I got them all. Oh, air. Goodness gracious. And I actually bought a structure deck. An air attribute structure deck. Wow, that archetype, that attribute's the one that doesn't get a lot of love. Oh well, that's everybody. I hope you all enjoyed seeing everyone. For now, I mean, it's kind of hard to enjoy seeing everyone since everyone doesn't have any art. And I hope next time you see a video and I hope next time I make another video on the Floral Monastery, I have fairly decent artwork to show for it. It's not going to be fantastical, but it's going to be decent. At least it won't look like scratchy line figures on notebook paper. I promise not to do that. So that's all for now.